Hey folks, so I'm just walking around my yard this afternoon and out here taking a look at my garden, and I thought I'd show you a quick look at how some of it's going. I've got to do a little bit of weeding, and I haven't mulched it with wheat straw or mulch straw like I did last year. I plan on doing that, but I just haven't had time to do it yet. And I've only been able to do about half the weeding in the garden. But anyway, I wanted to give you a quick view of everything that I've got growing. So I'm going to flip the camera around and show you. All right, so right here, I've got some, I know it's kind of hard to see because of all the crap, all the weeds. All these are weeds right here, but these are sunflowers, and I've got some more right over here. But there's some broccoli I've got that I think it's getting a little too warm for because it's getting kind of leggy. But got a couple of little heads growing. Maybe they'll produce something at least a little bit before it gets too hot. Now, right here and right here, I've got some sweet potatoes. Again, just forgive all the weeding that needs to be done. I simply haven't had time for it. Here I've got some white potatoes planted, and they're coming up okay. I planted these a couple of weeks after I actually planted the ones in the buckets. So the ones that are in the buckets are doing a lot better, and I'll show you those in a little bit. Right here are some bush beans. This is a row of bush beans that I'm going to thin as they get bigger if needed. And then here, and it's not coming up very well, I've got some okra plants coming up, not many, and there's an awful lot of weeds here, but I've got a few okra plants coming up. They're slow coming up. I'm slow getting them in the ground. All right, so right here are the two experiments for the corn. As you can see, they're growing pretty good. Now, I did add a little bit of 10 fertilizer to this and to the ones growing over there. But as you can see, these are, although they're kind of leaning towards the sunlight a little bit more, but they are growing pretty good. And over here, now this is a more shaded area, so I don't know how well these will grow, but these are coming up actually. Way behind these two though. These two are doing really good so far, so I'm kind of hopeful for that. Now, in this spot right here, I've got some small green onions, which you can see some of them actually starting to come up here. There's quite a few of them trying to come up. I've got like 3 rows of them in there next to the beans and the corn. Behind me over here are the peas that I tried to plant that I don't think are going to do anything because I planted them too late or too early, depending on how you look at it. I think these do better in cool weather. I think I'll order some more seed and try again in early fall and see how they do. Sorry about that, I accidentally pressed the wrong button. Now right here, I've got some carrots planted. Quite a nice little patch. And I know you might not be able to see them too well, but That's these right here. All of this right here is weeds. Like I said, I need to do considerable weeding. But yeah, this entire patch right here is nothing but carrots. Now here are my two squash plants. That one's yellow crookneck and this one's straight neck. I planted them pretty close together. Right here, these are cucumbers, and they're doing okay. Not quite as good as the squash over there. I've got a couple of bell peppers here. It's already blooming. And then of course I've got a variety of tomatoes. I've got Roma tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, Cherokee purple, some beefsteak. I'm hoping to be able to put up some this year. The tomatoes I've tried to grow last year, I got a lot of them, but not enough. They weren't suitable for actual canning. They were all Cherokee purples. And of course, my pole beans that I grew last year. I planted some more this year. And like I said, last year I had a double row here and a double row over here. But they were producing way too much for me to ever use. I ended up giving a bunch of it away. So this year I wanted to cut it in half, which left me a little bit more room to grow some other stuff. But those are doing really, really well. But that's what I've got growing in my garden right now. We're gonna see how everything does. I was debating adding to, or rather expanding my garden this year, but I think I'll just leave it at this because I don't know, every time I try to grow a garden, that seems to be when my job wants to double the amount of hours I work, and then I don't have as much time to maintain it or work on it. Now right here, right at the edge of the garden, this is the blueberry that I thought was dead last year. But provided the birds don't get it, it looks like I'm going to get some blueberries off of it this year, which will be the first year. That'll be nice. Again, provided the birds don't get everything. I'll give you guys more of an update later as things get a little bit taller. But again, just a quick look at my garden. I know it's still early yet. The okra's not quite even coming up yet. But I'm really pleased so far with the way these two experimental corn mounds are doing. Of course, they're not really, kind of hard to call them mounds. They're not really mounted up too high. Everything's settled down. And remember, I've got the sardines planted in the middle of those little bunches. And those over there were planted in just straight lines without any sardines. And I used 10 fertilizer on both of them. So we'll see which one does better, but it's looking like these two right here are going to do the best. I've got some fruit trees out here that I've been waiting on to produce. I don't know if they'll produce anything. And I've got a lot of trees and hedge growing up through my fence line, but this is a golden plum that I planted a few years ago. and I saw a couple of plums on it one year, but then it hasn't done anything else. I don't see anything on it this year either, which is kind of disappointing. But obviously it's overgrown right here. I've got a bunch of stuff I've got to cut away from it to give it some room. It's being choked out. I need to cut it, cut out from around it, clean it up, and I need to actually do some feeding for these fruit trees. This is an apple that I planted. This whole thing is an apple with a whole bunch of suckers that come off of it. I've neglected this as well, unfortunately. I haven't done any pruning, obviously. This is more of a shrub than a tree right now, so I need to work on that. And I saw a few blooms on it earlier this year, not many, but I haven't seen any indication of any potential fruit growing. Not yet, anyway. So we'll see. Again, I need to prune out a bunch of these suckers, and that's just a wild, tangled mess that needs to be cleaned up. Aside from that, I've got over here in this mess, believe it or not, there's actually a plum tree in that. It's way too tall, and it might even be dead. I can't even see it right now. I think I see some green on it, but it's just another example of I was having a hard time just a few years ago, and I let a lot of stuff get away from me. And I'm trying to get caught up now, and it's taking a while. But hopefully that plum, while it's never produced anything for me because I've just gonna let it go. I haven't really cared for it. I'm hoping to change that in the future. Right here is some elderberry, which I had planted over here in this mess, and it's spread out a little bit. So anybody that's considering growing elderberry, be aware that it will spread. The next fruit tree I have is, again, overgrown and neglected. Is an actual peach tree that's gotten pretty freaking tall, and I do see peaches on it. Now, it's produced peaches in the past few years, but I've never actually, and I know you probably can't see any, it's getting dark out here. That's a peach right there. There's a couple right there. It's produced peaches in the past, but when they start to get, I don't know, about the size of a golf ball, somewhere between a golf ball and a tennis ball, before they get full size, they start to turn brown and oozing sap, and they just fall off. They never mature to an edible state. There's a whole bunch right there. So obviously, because they're overgrown, not pruned, they're not fed, they're not treated, and I admit that's negligence on my part. Again, I've had things I've been having to deal with, and I don't want to go into all that right now, or I'm not going into that period on here, but I just fell behind on a bunch of things. It took me a long time before I was even willing to get out and do anything. But anyway, off that subject, right here is my old pear tree. This tree was here when I moved in, and it's always produced a ton of pears, and it's got a lot of pears on it now. I've had to top it 2 or 3 times. I've done some major pruning on it. It's looking better, but I still got a lot I need to do to it. There's one pear right there. And one thing I've noticed about this particular pear tree, and I don't know if it's typical of all because this is the only pear tree I've ever had, is that you'll get some years where you'll get a really heavy harvest and other years you'll get a really light crop. But it always does pretty good. Even in the light years, you still get a lot. Here's some more. Look, it's looking like this might be a light year. There's one there. There's one. Yeah, it's looking like this might be a light year, but there's still quite a few on it. And they always do really good. And man, they tend to get really, really big. And by really, really big, I mean like softball size. I've had some almost a softball size. I honestly don't know what variety of pear these are because, like I said, these were here when I bought the house. And there were actually two apples. There was an apple tree right about there, and there was an apple tree right about there. And both of them were severely neglected. And they ended up getting diseased and dying, so I went ahead and cut them out. Then I planted that tree, and I've got another apple way back over there that see, I believe that's a Granny Smith right there, and I believe back there is an Arkansas Black. Again, I planted them just maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Neither one's produced anything. Again, I haven't really pruned them, watered them, fed them, or sprayed them or anything. So I've got a lot of making up to do. But this tree right here, this pear tree, never fails to produce for me. Even in years where it doesn't produce a lot, it still produces a good bit. And it's still, even in those light years, I have more than I need. All right, so let me stop this here, and I'm gonna go over there and show you some of my potatoes in the buckets. All right, so these are my potatoes. This is how tall they are. Ignore the weeds. I still got to trim the yard here, but yeah, the potatoes in the 5-gallon buckets are doing really, really good. That one in the back's a little bit smaller than these up front, and then these are the potatoes in that big pot, and then over here, with a weed growing up in between the pots, I've got all my mint that I need to harvest. And then on this side, again, I've got my thyme, my rosemary, one of my tomatoes. This is a early girl bush type tomato. And as you can see, it's already got tiny tomatoes on it. This is full of chives, and I even planted some from seed, which I don't see them coming up yet. And then out in the front yard, I have a couple of more fruit trees. I've got a peach tree and I've got a plum tree out there, but I'm not going to go out there right now. But I'm really pleased with the way the potatoes are doing in these buckets. They seem to be doing a lot better than the ones in the ground over there in the garden. But we'll see how that goes, and I'll keep you guys updated on that. Okay, so that's just a quick walk around my garden and some of the stuff that I've got in my yard. I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of what I've been doing. Something else that I've been doing is where I work, we've gotten in a bunch of machinery on these really big pallets that are actually bigger than the bed of my truck here. And some of those pallets are made up of 2x6 size boards on a 4x4 style runner system setup, but they come from Europe. They come from Germany and Croatia, so they're not dimensional lumber to American standards. So, but still, it's really good wood. Some of them are, like I said, are topped with boards like these right here. And then some are topped with what looks like 1/2-inch plywood. And then the runners for the pallets are like 8, 10, and 12 foot long posts like that. And today I was trying to salvage some of that material for use around the house. Possibly my blacksmith shop or a chicken coop or anything like that that I might need. Now I'll be going back in the morning and tearing down some more. This isn't even a full pallet. This was maybe half of one of the pallets. All of this came off of maybe half of one of those big pallets. That's quite a bit of wood right there. Plus, got nails. So I'm trying to, they're giving it away. They normally just scrap them or give them to anybody that wants them. So I'm trying to salvage whatever I can and save money as much as I can. If you went to the store and bought wood like this, you'd be spending a lot of money. And this is material I can build things with. It doesn't cost me anything but the time to tear it apart. Anyway, it's getting dark, so that's all I've got for right now. I just wanted to give you guys, like I said, a walk around of my garden and show you a few of the things that I've been doing. I've got a lot more projects in mind that I got to do. I've got a mile-long list of things to do, and it always seems like my list is way longer than the time I have to do it, but I try to get as much done as I can. Anyway, I hope you guys are staying busy, getting things done. I know what I'm doing is not necessarily impressive, but it shows you what I'm trying to do, what I'm focused on. And I hope you guys are focused on getting some things done. Projects, planning, growing, harvesting food, storing food, anything like that. The better we are, the more we prep, the better we are prepared to handle whatever is coming for us in the future, regardless of what you think might be coming, regardless of how bad you might think it will be, whether it's another pandemic, whether it's war or starvation. The more you can do, the better off you'll be. Anyway, with that, that's all I've got. Take care, folks. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you later.